Bruno Fernandes had the cheek to tell the media that the referee should apologise.
The fans will have a really short patience.
Not great spending that much money on a player who's going to give you a penalty.
Hello, welcome back to Just Another Football Podcast, the authentic podcast that discusses such authentic football issues like the Liverpool defensive midfield situation and Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia. How are you, lads?
Very well. Very well
good
indeed.
All right,
Very
well,
good.
we've seen snippets. Last time I was here 2 weeks ago, there's no talk at all about Endo. Romeo Lavia was still at Southampton. Moises Caicedo, there was talk, and then he finally went to you guys for 115 million in whatever currency it is. It's an absurd transfer fee, and things started to look and shape up the way they're going to run for the rest of the season. So we're going to discuss that on both sides, Chelsea and Liverpool. The Tottenham Manchester United game was obviously very fascinating. Ange might be cooking up something here with a few surprise faces in there. 5 red cards this game week, we realized before we started recording, and we went like, yeah, let's talk about this, because there was a few like headliner weird decisions this week, so we're gonna discuss that as well. And yeah, let's get straight into it. But first of all, the Women's World Cup just ended. England falling short on the final hurdle against a Spain team who were predicted before the tournament to have just a really rough time, because you know there's been such drama before the start of the campaign, where there's like allegations of like inappropriate conduct and encouraging inappropriate conduct, and 15 players that resigned or like withdrew from involvement, and then some of them came back, and blah 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 blah. And then they went on to win the World Cup, which is just weird. But they did win by a goal to nil. A penalty missed as well. Yeah, England losing Fergal, that must be good news for you, I suppose.
It was good again. I was a wee bit worried, but I was watching it a bit hungover as well, so it was like, you know, it kind of lifted my spirits a bit whenever the result came through. But it was as the finals go, sometimes it wasn't the best game, but I thought Spain did deserve it. I thought they controlled it really well. A great goal to win it as well.
Yeah, goals were very good.
But yeah, I thought England didn't just quite have enough, and then I even thought in the last few minutes, 10, 15, like there's a lot of extra time, 13 minutes of extra time.
Yeah.
And I thought as soon as it went past 90 minutes, like England started just hoofing the ball instead of trying to you know, they still got basically like last 15 minutes of the game to try and work something, and I thought they just maybe lost their head a bit, maybe tired as well, but they didn't try and work it as much and as they maybe should have done. And but that was one thing I thought, as like looking at it as unbiased as I could have been. I thought if I was an England fan, I would have been disappointed and frustrated by that in the last few minutes. But they put up a good fight. But Spain definitely were the better team, and very interesting World Cup, like, because and quite a very competitive World Cup, I thought.
Oh, absolutely.
And like, I'll be honest, I only really watch women, like, pay close attention to women's football once it comes around to the World Cups. And like, it's come on leaps and bounds from the last one I watched. Like, there's like definitely more. It's more competitive. The players are incredible. Some brilliant goals this year, and the biggest difference I found recently is the goalkeepers have gotten much better. Still a long way to go, I think, in terms of goalkeeping, but the Earps for England has been terrific, and so she's the gold standard at the moment, and hopefully there's more of that to come.
Yeah, I thought it was there were so many like great goals. It reminded me of the 2018 World Cup a bit, where there's just like this massive collection of bangers. My favorite goal would go to Linda Caicedo. Who was the score against? You know, I think it was Germany. He skipped, when she skipped around 2 players and just like shifted to her right and curled it.
Right in the top corner, that one.
Right in the top end.
Shout out to probably the only highlight for Ireland was Katie McCabe's goal from the corner.
That was insane too. I think that was like, there were a few comments on social media that went like, hey, it wouldn't happen in the men's game. But I thought no one in the world would save that. There's nobody in the world. Like, unless you're Thibaut Courtois and you're 6'7", there's no chance.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think like once the goalkeeper sort of takes those couple steps forward and they're caught out like that, that's tricky for any goalkeeper from that position. Like, maybe if you're wise to it, you stay on your line and you don't get caught out. But from that position and that delivery, it's ridiculously hard to stop.
Yeah.
But Sam Kerr's goal against England was great as well.
Semi-final. She did miss a couple sitters after that, which dented her experience a bit. George, now, the interesting question here is that Serena Wiegman, there has been talk, let's say, that they're considering, the FA is considering when eventually Gareth Southgate leaves, because he's not going to be there forever, to replace him with Serena Wiegman. What do you think?
Well, she clearly done well in a cup competition and you know won Euros as well. But no, I don't think it'd be appropriate. Like, as much as I'd love to see women's manager in the men's game, I don't think that's the right step.
I don't think the.
I think the scrutiny level on an England team that actually is probably going to go through a bit of a transition, losing likely Kane in the next few tournaments, and I imagine they give Southgate the next one.
Emma Hayes, now if Emma Hayes wanted to do it, I'd be a bit more open to that thought.
Interesting. It would be remiss of me not to mention my experience of last week, since last episode came out, of watching Lionel Messi live. He came to Philadelphia, Chester, which is south of Philadelphia Union. Obviously, I work on game days for them, and he visited with Inter Miami in the Leagues Cup semifinal. Leagues Cup, I mentioned 2 weeks ago that it's a waste of time of a tournament, in my opinion, but it made me watch Messi. So yeah, I suppose there's that. We lost 4-1, which was our biggest defeat in I want to say 3 years. And Messi scored from 40 yards or whatever. But I found myself like disappointed still that we still lost so heavily, because in reality we should have won. Like, none of the 4 goals all of them were savable. Aldrich Blake had a disappointing game. But yeah, real privilege to be able to watch Messi up close, and yeah, there was that.
What was the sort of? I get the feeling in America, everyone's welcoming Messi to their stadium.
Yeah,
there's nobody like giving sort of maybe a more European reaction of like, come on then, big lad, show us what you're made of, and then a few boos, a few jeers. Everybody saw sort of in awe of him. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Philadelphia Union tried that.
Right.
The Sons of Ben, who are like our ultras group and have their own like end. They tried.
What's their name?
Sons of Ben, Benjamin Franklin.
Right. Okay.
So they tried. They didn't really succeed because Messi scored on their end inside 20 minutes.
And that silenced them.
Yeah, but there were loud boos when Lionel Messi's name was announced in the opposition lineup. Like, very loud, like one of the loudest boos I've heard in Super Park. Bearing in mind, we obviously broke the attendance record in Super Park history. But yeah,
what was the attendance? That's one of the things you keep track of still, is it?
I don't remember the actual number, but my assumption is between 22 and 23,000. Bearing in mind the stadium holds 18 and a bit thousand. There was thousands of standing fans.
All right, okay.
And like a lot of people in suites and stuff. It's just like crowded everywhere. But yeah, there was that. And then Inter Miami went on to win Leagues Cup, obviously. Messi wins his 44th trophy and becomes the most decorated player ever. Chalk. Onto the Premier League. Right then. Moises Caicedo debut after his 115 million pound, right?
Yeah.
Signing for Chelsea. And had an absolute shocker, didn't he, George?
Yeah, not ideal.
Stinker.
Giving away a penalty, and I think he gave the ball away 8 times. It probably was a bit less than that, but it seemed like he gave the ball away countless times as a substitute. You know, he's not been training really, and he's not been playing a lot for Brighton. So I'm not too worried. I think it's a lack of match fitness and sharpness. Obviously, the headlines are going to be, 115 million man. He's an absolute flop already. That to me is fine. I think I'd, lower expectations a little bit. Let him get into the squad gradually. I'm going to see the positives of Caicedo, which is hopefully returning to a 4 at the back, because we've got a solid defensive midfielder. That's what really I think was the main harm for Chelsea. As much as we did create chances, we none of them were clear cut, and being able to get a few more bodies in the midfield and further forward in the midfield, I think will help the lone striker. So yeah, it's not great, obviously, spending that much money on a player who's going to give you a penalty, but thank God it wasn't the winning goal, because that would have been an absolute nightmare.
It's weird to me that he does go 3 at the back, Mauricio Pochettino, given all preseason, and I've had the chance to watch them in the summer series. The 4 at the back looked great. It looked fantastic and very well balanced. But you got rid of Caicedo. Oh, not got rid of. That's a bit strong. Loaned Caicedo out to Leicester City. I feel like he would have been a good option in a double, a good backup option in a double pivot. But I suppose there's the argument of he needs regular football.
There's a lot of people would say he's too attacking as well, Ali. I think he's
But that's
more
the point, though. If Caicedo. If you play a double pivot of Caicedo and Caicedo, I think that works super well. If Caicedo is on the left and Caicedo to his right, it would work like a McAllister Caicedo double pivot in Brighton, or when McAllister did it with, let's say, Pascal Gross. McAllister has that license to go forward, and then you have a number 10 in front of it. Obviously, Nkunku's injured, which hurts as well. But it gives him options. I feel like it got weakened a little bit. Yeah,
I think Caicedo, from what I've been able to see of him so far in his roles, is that he's almost like he could almost end up as like a 10 or second striker at times. Like he really loves getting in the box.
Yeah.
So, but I just can't see him in such a deep role at the moment, given how young he is. He doesn't come across like he's strong enough defensively just yet. Like they were saying that Santos was actually the preferred one out of the two to get a chance this season in Chelsea's first team, and obviously that's proven. Now Santos, I don't know if he'll end up going out on loan as well. There's talk of that happening still, but yeah, we definitely need to move to a back 4. It's been disappointing that we haven't. I think it's just because these games matter, that I think maybe Poch didn't want to risk playing without a good defensive midfielder. But it's interesting to not play a defensive midfielder, but then play Gallagher out of position. And you're like, well, if you're already playing Gallagher out of position, why not? Why wouldn't you sort of put Enzo as the deepest player?
Yep.
And then Gallagher in his more natural position, and just play a 4 at the back. And Disasi, he hasn't had the best of starts to his Chelsea career. I thought Antonio was like had him sussed and done him a couple of times with with his strength and then with the skill and then unbelievable strike for Antonio's goal. But Disasi wasn't tight enough. I didn't think Disasi was great in the Liverpool game either, though he got the goal. I thought he got a wee bit better after he got the goal. Um, but yeah, it's Disasi. He was actually all right. Whenever I watched the highlights back of the Chelsea game, I actually noticed he made some good line breaking passes. But other than that, I thought defensively he's not quite up to speed yet. But then who do we have to go alongside? What like I look if we have to have Thiago Silva in the back four, which I'm not too sure on, especially after the weekend. Thiago Silva didn't have his best game either, and
he's
he's
got to stop at some point. Like he's got to stop being your best defender at one point or another.
It's when we've been really unlucky with the injuries, I think, and so it's Colwell, but who else alongside him? Chalobah, I think, still has got an injury. Otherwise, he'd be my first choice at the moment. I'm starting to think maybe going forward, I'd like Badashile and Colwell, even though they're both left-sided. I think
fine.
They're the two best centre backs, and they're both good enough that surely one of them playing on the right won't cause too much of a disruption.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done well. It's a really annoying game. It was an almost game for Chelsea. Like I thought Nicholas Jackson had a lot of almost moments, and almost scored, and almost got past the player to almost made a pass, and then Sterling was fantastic. Really, really good. Enzo missed the penalty, but was good otherwise.
Yeah,
it'll come for Chelsea. I don't, as George said, it's not the end of the world, and I don't think we should get caught up with it too much. Yeah. But the thing about Poch is that he is ex-Spurs, and until he starts getting a few wins, there'll be Chelsea fans not forgetting that he was ex-Spurs. So we do need sort of the good times and the good, because like the bad times are like they're like it's in everybody's short-term memory at how bad last season was.
Yeah.
So like and there's so much pressure and so much money being spent that like I think although like we shouldn't be rushing into like calling it a bad season for Chelsea. It's like I think the fans will have a really short patience for if the results don't start coming because it hasn't been good for like 2 seasons, and last year was such a disaster. So it's on a knife edge. We're not quite on a knife edge yet, but we need a win against Luton on Friday night badly.
Yeah, especially short patience, given I think the main point is going back to a back five and the same old problems of just not being able to convert chances and crosses. Like it was almost like just watching a game of the last 2 seasons, and that's what Poch was going to come in to completely change in terms of changing up the style of play, being a little bit more on the front foot, counter-attacking more often rather than just keeping the ball. We had like 76% possession, back five, created chances, didn't score them. It was watching same old Chelsea, unfortunately, with a completely different team. Yeah. So that'll change. I'm almost saying with Caicedo, but let's just hope we bring something fresh.
It's just really, it's like we've been so unlucky with injuries. Like I say, we've been lucky with injuries. We spent a lot of money, so we should have a squad to cover it. But one of them was Mal Gusto, who I thought done okay.
I like Mal Gusto a lot.
Well, we'll see how we go. There was some Leon fans that were over the moon that they got so much money and think that maybe he's not so good one-on-one, but from what I've seen him so far, I'm pretty happy. But Reece James getting injured again is just so annoying. But thankfully, we have a good replacement this time round.
Yeah.
Chukwuemeka, he took his goal brilliantly. but then injured. And then, as we've already touched on, Caicedo comes on and just has a shocker.
Caicedo.
It's a good job we brought another DM. So if Caicedo doesn't work out, we'll just chuck that in. And if he doesn't work out, we'll chuck the other fellow. He still haven't worked out how to say his name, but it begins with U.
Ogochukwu, I think.
Ogochukwu.
I have a massive amount of schadenfreude towards Moises Caicedo, and I hate it. I hate that I feel that way, but I do. But we got someone. Wataru Endo. Now, this is a Jurgen Klopp signing who he very publicly and straightforwardly said, this is not something FSG wanted. This is something I had to convince them to do. I've been a fan of this guy for years, and I've tried to get him in before, and I finally got him. 30 years old. Looks like the age is not going to be a massive issue. I'm not too worried. He's played 33 games, 3 seasons in a row in like the league, so he looks like he's not the injury-prone 30-year-old Thiago that we signed in 2020. It looks like something completely different. Sure, ball winner, like by far our best ball winner now in midfield by a mile, because he's the only specialized player in that sort of role. It makes me optimistic about that. It was a defensive ability and how more assured we will be when defending in midfield. However, there are 2 observations here that I made from our game against Bournemouth. Is one, Endo needs to start in a double pivot, and the player next to him needs to be a playmaker. So that will be either Alexis McAllister or Thiago, or third choice Stefan Bajcetic, because he needs to win the ball and just pass it on to the guy that can actually pick a pass. 36% pass completion over the last 360. 36 percentile. Sorry, I remember it wrong. He's in the 36th percentile for pass completion.
How is he going to move to Liverpool?
It would be absolutely disastrous. But 36th percentile doesn't look great either. He's just not great at ball retention, and we saw a little sample of that where he just got very easy, like just eased off the ball. He doesn't seem to have a lot of awareness of what's around him, and in terms of like scanning who's coming behind him, which is the same issue with Trent. I don't want Trent to play in DM. I'm done with that. He needs to play at right back. He needs to have the whole game in front of him. He is not good at receiving the ball with his back to the play. Just no. He will lose the ball a lot of the time. So, in my opinion, let's just play a 4-2-3-1. McAllister next to Endo. Szoboszlai in front of him. Or, let's say Endo, McAllister and Szoboszlai as 8s, where McAllister has a bit of more of a license to go forward and act as the playmaker in the middle. Szoboszlai was fantastic against Bournemouth. Absolutely amazing. And, well, relative to Jordan Henderson anyway, he looks like he's one of the best replacements possible for Henderson. Like, one of the biggest upgrades possible. 13 progressive carries over his last 2 games. 7 out of 8 long ball completion. And these 2 factors are important because we're trying to be so much more direct now, so much more aggressive, and the time it takes us from starting the attack to finishing a chance Klopp is trying to decrease that a lot. Maybe partly so we don't have to do so much hard work in terms of running. Maybe we're starting to get the ball into the back of the net as soon as possible. Or we're just like trying to catch teams out more and be more aggressive and take more of a Red Bull approach, which I'm all for. It's fine. But I feel like Endo is an okay signing, just not what I looked for, and I still think if we get an injury, it will downgrade us quite a lot. And I would love to see, this is a plead to everyone associated with Liverpool to just go get Ibrahim Sangare. Just go get him, and everything will be fine. I promise you.
The good thing about Enzo is that, like you said,
Endo.
you're Endo. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're disappointed with it. Not disappointed with the signing, but it's
No,
fairly
not at all.
underwhelming. No. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
it's underwhelming.
It's not what I was looking for.
No, but it's underwhelming, and that's good for him, and it's good for Liverpool in the sense that he can't flop like Caicedo can in terms of profile.
Yeah.
One
Doesn't have the
reason
pressure of the price, 16.5 million.
the one reason I'm concerned about him as a player is he's played for a team that have consistently underperformed and been pretty terrible in the Bundesliga. I think they finished 16th and 15th maybe the past two seasons. So his defensive stats, these kind of teams, their defensive stats do tend to be a little bit better.
True. Very true.
And I don't know how Stuttgart are play. I couldn't profess, but I can't imagine being that low in the table that they play much for possession based, and they probably get dominated for most of the game. So it'd be interesting to see him transition into a Liverpool side where, his stats might look good in terms of defensive recoveries, but when he's on the ball so much, when a team dominates possession, how does he fare? Again, it doesn't really matter if he flops because he's not all too expensive and he wasn't a high profile before that. But, for Liverpool, that would be the one concern.
But hey, late bloomers are a thing. Like, Didier Drogba went to Chelsea at 25?
It's like 24. It's not too late. It's not too late, but
late-ish. Endo came to the Bundesliga at 26 years old, I think. So, and the age doesn't concern me that much.
James McClean signed for Sunderland when he's 22.
There you go. Manchester United. I feel glad they lost against Tottenham. There are obvious reasons why I hope this club fails, and they lost pretty handily against Spurs there. And that was a weird game in terms of United were just playing so. There was so much expression about the first half performance, and so much arrogance and fancy tricks that all came off. Bruno Fernandes missed a sitter that if that was gonna be a goal, it would have been one of the best build-ups of the season. The ball into him was so cheeky. It's one of those where how has he found this freedom that nobody saw him coming from around the back.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they got sussed out by a incredibly hard-working Tottenham side. Sarr and Bissouma are gonna be surprising in terms of players we didn't see performing as well as they have so far. Sarr's shot map against Man United was all inside the 6-yard box. He had 5 shots from inside the area. It was fascinating. It was really fascinating.
I'm worried that Spurs have got off to the races because I was sort of hoping that a new style and a new manager might take a bit of time for things to bed in. I mean, they only got a draw in their first game, but against a good Brentford team. And then maybe Man United are a bit undercooked as well. But I do think Aaaaand is going to be a good manager, and the fact that they started so well, I'm just like, oh no, is this going to be a good season for them? But yeah, I really like Maddison. I think Maddison's great.
Yeah,
and I think he's coming into this team, and now Kane's gone. He likes being the main man, and with Son not being as good as he has previously been, I think Maddison will sort of take that in his stride and try and be their talisman as well. But yeah, great result for them. But Man United maybe should have scored more as well.
Spurs still need a striker there, don't they? In terms of the goals that they scored, they're not exactly what a goal's a goal, but they're not where you want your goals to come from. You want your goals to come from a striker. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you want it from a talisman who's going to score 20 goals. And I still like Richarlison, not as a player and as a footballer. I think he's a diver and he's sort of whiny, but his play style, certainly for Brazil, I quite like his aggression and the way he moves off the ball. I think there's still something in him for his Tottenham career. I just do think that's an obvious area of maybe just bringing in someone a little bit different, a target man. They've got two fantastic wingers in Son and Kulusevski. Still, they need to perform. They've not been fantastic, but they've got ability. They bring in a Weghorst. I think they get something out of those two players.
Yeah.
I wonder where they go for Tony in January.
I wonder if you could get him on the cheap now. Get him on the cheap now while his 6-month ban sort of continues. And,
Although in saying that, he literally just came out in an interview, Diary of a CEO, and said he was a Liverpool fan and likes Arsenal. So maybe not Spurs. But I think Aaaaand will be the Richarlison whisper and get. I think. Watch out if Richarlison gets his first goal, but not just like, it can't just be like a crappy, like scrappy goal. Once he gets a goal that is good and that'll give him a bit of confidence, I do worry if he'll start buying them in, and we'll see Brazilian, we'll see R9 Richarlison, potentially.
Hey, Peter Crouch went on this long drought and then hit a ball off someone's butt, and then it like looped in and dropped into the goal, and it was probably an own goal, but it was given to Peter Crouch, and then it was all it came better. The other thing about this game was that Bruno Fernandes had the cheek to tell the media that the referee should apologize for not giving them a penalty. But when the week before, Onana clattered into someone from Wolves, I don't remember who it was, and the penalty wasn't given. Obvious penalty, just not given. But I don't want to talk about
it's not necessarily hypocrisy. He's just saying, like, nobody asked him at the previous week. Maybe he would have went, "Oh, look, last week we got lucky. This week we didn't. We got unlucky."
Yeah.
The common denominator is we've got shit refs. The point still stands.
Now, I don't want to talk about any of the decisions. There was 5 red cards, including one weird one today. The Manchester United, Crystal Palace Arsenal game just finished. Tomiyasu got one of the harshest red cards off 2 yellows that were frankly ridiculous. But I don't want to talk about any of the decisions, but about how they're trying to improve, because they clearly are trying, and what can be done to make more sense of this, or make it make more sense, if you know what I mean. So some of the new measures that have been kind of implemented, apart from 30 seconds before a player injured goes out and gets treatment, comes back on, there's the 30-second allowance, player behavior and more like strictness in terms of handing out yellows and reds. If a player gestures for a card, that's a yellow, that sort of thing. And we've seen already examples of the Football League of that happening, and leading to yellow card accumulation, which led to red cards, which was pretty weird. Like, it's all a bit surreal that all that is happening, and we've seen 5 red cards this game week, which is it has to be some sort of record. But yeah, there's some weird ones there. Now, obviously, like as I said, I don't want to talk about decisions, but some of those are being appealed already. Alexis McAllister's red card is being appealed, understandably so, because like if that's a red card, there's going to be a red card every single game. The yellows today for Tomiyasu, one was for time wasting, which was also, I believe, one of the strict measures that they're taking. What happened with that?
I like that one though.
But Kai Havertz had the ball for a much longer time than Tomiyasu had. Tomiyasu got the yellow card. So he gave the ball to Tomiyasu. He had the ball in his hands for 8 seconds on the dot. And then he threw, and then he got the yellow. Like, he'd already played the throw before the whistle went. So the yellow card in and of itself is wrong. So, like...
I don't think so. I don't agree.
Are you sure?
Time
waste. He shouldn't get the yellow because he didn't... Like, he didn't have the ball for that long.
He knew how much time had been wasted already. So it was his decision to carry on the time wasting. and not throw it sooner. Just because he only had it for 8 seconds doesn't make a difference. Your team had it for, I think it was 23 seconds. I think the commentator said, and they'd already been warned to hurry up. So this is the new thing. It happened with. I remember we talked about it a while ago. That happened with Northern Ireland, where time wasting and it was a throw in, and it was really early on in the game. And I think it was Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
And it was time wasting anyway, and he got a second yellow, but it was because the whole team in general were getting were time wasting. So players just have to be smarter about it. Like players are very smart about how they time waste. They now need to be smart about. Are you on a yellow card already and your team's time wasting? Well, you better not be the one holding the ball.
He wasn't on a yellow.
For years, a good dirty team will share out the yellow cards, taking down players, and just do the same for time wasting yellow cards. And so I don't have any sympathy there. I think that's one of the good measures that has been brought in.
Yeah, I agree, generally.
And as with all these things, it starts off with a lot of yellows and red cards until people learn. And then it cuts it out because managers will not play players if they consistently pick up yellow and red cards and cost their team points. So like it'll come around eventually. The time wasting. Tommy Asu's second yellow incredibly harsh now because I don't I don't know if there was much of a tug, but the first one I thought was earned. It's just a new way of giving out that yellow card, but I welcome it.
Yeah, and for me, I remember a couple of years ago, like this happens all the time. Every year there's a new changing of either the handball rule or anything else.
Yeah,
the pushing in the box was the other one.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Holding and pushing in the box was a big one. And I remember at the start of the Premier League season, there were so many penalties being given for pulls and pushes and shoves in the box during set pieces. Eventually teams learn to stop pulling people's shirts and pushing people over. And with anything like Fergal says, it will just be a correction, maybe not to fully, stop time wasting, but to a more normal state in terms of football. I think the sub one also helps in terms of stopping time wasting. It's clear that people go down for a very, very specific reason to waste time. So I love the 10-minute added on in terms of games, in terms of minutes as well.
With that, I find frustrating though, because if you're a player, you're watching the clock and you're like, we've played the 90 minutes and then there'll be some out of time. Now it's very hard. It'd be very hard to gauge, and the fact that there actually are just keeping track of the exact seconds the ball's out of play. Why don't they just stop the clock? I don't get why football is so against stopping the clock and just and just doing that, because then everybody in the stadium understands. The players are able to see exactly how much time. I also think that stopping the clock also might make the players get on with it even more. If the referee is able to go like, time stopped, and the players are able to tell like, well, like I can waste all the time I want now, but it's actually like the clock stopped. Where nothing's happening here. So I do like the fact that time is now being added on, but if we could make it so it's less of a guessing game for the fans in the stadium, as the point was made, like the longer fans are in the stadium, like they might not get home as quickly and stuff like that, and it could cause other issues that way. So yeah, we'll see how that one develops. But for some reason, football just seems so against stopping the clock entirely. But I think it's something that's just inevitable if they're going to be bringing this out of time in.
In 2018, I went to my first college soccer game in the University of Virginia, in a game that featured Daryl Dike. Shout out Daryl Dike of West Bromwich Albion. He's currently injured. Sad. And that's the first time I saw the stop clock thing, and I immediately thought, like, my first thought was, why is this a thing everywhere? And I totally agree with you, Fergal. This is going to happen at some point, because the footballing world will realize, like, when you add a Portsmouth game, I think had like 24 minutes added on. Like, that's just ridiculous. It looks bad. Like, as a sport, it looks weird. You know what I mean? And if it has a stop clock, either going upwards or like counting up or counting down, I think counting down is more entertaining. But I think it will come. I think it will come.
I think that would be too much of a
yeah.
The pundits would go mental at that one.
Yeah,
they would be. They will be.
You could see Roy Keane.
10 minutes added on, or
Roy Keane would not be happy with that, would he?
Time has come to choose the short king of the week. This time we have some candidates now. We have a few. And the one I'm going to put forward... Wait, hold on. Fergal, you go first. I need to check something.
I've got two in my head. I was hoping that you would say one and then I might say the other. Was actually three. I have Sterling and Caicedo and Ward-Prowse.
What, you've taken them all, Fergal? You've taken them all. Yeah, I didn't. Sorry.
Go ahead, George. Since I took them all, go on.
I didn't have Sterling because although he played well, I don't think he did enough.
Yeah, and Chelsea lost.
Yeah, but I did have in Caicedo and Ward-Prowse, and leaning towards Ward-Prowse because he's just, to have a player like that in the team is just so useful. And he's not exactly a liability throughout the game. He's not just a numbers man. He can keep the ball well, he can defend well, but to have someone who can put it on a sixpence every single time, no matter corner, free kick, whatever it may be.
Especially for West Ham.
Huge. Absolutely huge for them going forward. It'd be interesting to see how many goals he actually creates this year. So I'd say that's my shout.
Ali?
I checked on Christian Pulisic. Should we take a peek at Pulisic as he debuted with AC Milan?
Hey, if you want to make that your segment, go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, this could be the segment where we look at Americans, all the Americans that are playing abroad. It's an exciting time. Brandon Aronson is thriving with Berlin, and Christian Pulisic scored a screamer today against Bologna.
We could check on Cheek as well.
Check on Cheek. Good. I like it. But my pick is going to be John McGinn, who I sold in fantasy stupidly because they're going to play Everton, but he hadn't scored he hadn't scored in ages, and I don't know why I brought him in, basically, because I had high hopes of Villa, and I suppose he's he's the number 10 for Aston Villa, so I brought him in initially. I thought, let's spin him, but stupid decision because he scored against Everton and had a very good game.
Well, I was going to go for Enciso because he's the shortest of them all at 168.
And he had a brilliant game too. Yeah.
But
Brighton are cooking.
I'll just so we'll get the majority and we can end this quickly. I'll go for James Ward-Prowse since 2 assists on his debut. Hard to beat.
Yeah.
And was he last year's? Did he win?
He won the poll.
Hey, and he's come back.
I blame you so much. I was raging whenever I because I wasn't on that episode. I was absolutely raging whenever I saw that Twitter post. And then I done my vote and I saw Ward-Prowse won. It's like, how on earth has Ward-Prowse won? Shocking. Anyway.
It was a campaign from the listeners to vote for Ward-Prowse to break the vote, which they didn't agree with the choices. So, yeah. Shame.
Shame on us, maybe.
Shame on all of us. He is the short king of the week, though, for week 2. James Ward-Prowse, congratulations on your 2 assists with West Ham United this week, including a beautiful corner, typically of him. And that is the end of the episode. And on a high. So, yeah. Thank you, boys. We'll be back next week for more. And yeah, everybody else, have an amazing week. Hopefully we see Harry next week as well with us. So, yeah. All right. Goodbye. Good luck. I don't know how to end this episode. I don't know why. Cheers.